When most people hear Texas real estate, they picture opportunity. Bidding wars in Austin, luxury condos rising in Houston, suburban sprawl eating up North Dallas at a pace that feels almost aggressive. Texas has been sold to the world as a place where property always goes up, where demand never sleeps, and where your investment is practically guaranteed to grow. But here's what that story leaves out. Right now, in 2026, there are Texas cities where entire neighborhoods have gone quiet. Streets where houses sit locked, dark, and deteriorating. Not because nobody built them, but because nobody wants them. Or, more accurately, because the people who once lived there had no choice but to leave. We're not talking about a handful of fixer-uppers scattered here and there. We're talking about structural, citywide abandonment. Properties piling up faster than buyers can absorb them. Vacancy rates climbing while home values slide. Towns that were once economically vital, now slowly unraveling at the seams. Today, we're counting down the 10 Texas cities with the most abandoned and unsold homes in 2026. And we're doing it with data, not just drama. From the Gulf Coast to the West Texas Plains, these are the places where the real estate market hasn't just slowed down. It's nearly stopped altogether. Stay with us for number one. It's a city where refineries still run at full capacity, but the neighborhoods around them are being reclaimed by weeds and silence. Let's get into it. Number 10, Wichita Falls. Wichita Falls sits close to the Oklahoma border, and it's been fighting a slow-motion economic battle for years. From the outside, it looks like a functioning mid-sized Texas city. But look at the housing data, and a very different picture emerges. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the poverty rate in Wichita Falls has consistently hovered above 18%. That figure matters enormously for real estate, because poverty and home maintenance are directly connected. When nearly 1 in 5 residents is financially stretched, leaky roofs don't get fixed, foundation issues go unaddressed, and eventually the house becomes unlivable, not through any single dramatic event, but through 100 small problems that compounded over time. Property analytics firm Adam Data Solutions has flagged Wichita Falls for its growing inventory of so-called zombie foreclosures. These are homes that are technically in the foreclosure process, but haven't been fully repossessed by the bank. They exist in legal limbo, no longer occupied, not yet sold, just sitting there and decaying. This type of property is particularly damaging to neighborhoods because nobody is legally responsible for upkeep. Zillow market data shows that home values in Wichita Falls have struggled to keep pace with inflation over the past 2 decades. What that means in real terms? A homeowner who bought in 2005 may have actually lost purchasing power compared to where they started. That discourages investment, which discourages buyers, which discourages development. A self-reinforcing cycle that's difficult to escape. FBI crime statistics place property crime rates in this area above the national average, which further suppresses outside investor interest. And as younger residents leave for Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin in search of better-paying jobs, the local population ages, incomes stagnate, and the housing stock gets older and weaker with every passing year. Number 9. Paris, Texas. Yes, there is a Paris in Texas. And yes, there is a replica Eiffel Tower wearing a red cowboy hat. But beyond that novelty, Paris is a community dealing with very real and very serious housing challenges in 2026. This East Texas city carries the charm of old American small-town life, but that charm is increasingly overshadowed by economic decline. Bureau of Labor Statistics data shows that median household income here falls consistently below the Texas state average, and when families are earning less, home maintenance budgets are the first thing to shrink. What makes Paris particularly difficult is the nature of its housing stock. Much of the residential inventory consists of older Victorian-era and mid-century homes that require significant upkeep. Humidity in East Texas is relentless, and wood-framed homes absorb that moisture year after year. Without regular maintenance, structural deterioration accelerates quickly. Redfin market data indicates that homes in Paris often sit on the market for roughly double the national average listing period. The pool of qualified buyers has thinned dramatically as employment opportunities have shrunk. Texas Workforce Commission data has shown unemployment rates here consistently edging above the statewide figure, which translates directly into fewer residents with the credit scores and income stability required to secure a mortgage. Local housing assessments have identified pockets of the city where vacancy rates approach 10%. County tax auction records show a steady stream of properties being sold off for unpaid taxes, often purchased by out-of-region investors who rarely invest in rehabilitation. Those houses sit idle, further widening the gap between what Paris was and what it's becoming. Number 8. Alice. Alice, Texas built its identity on oil. During boom cycles, it was a proud, prosperous hub of the South Texas energy patch. Trucks in driveways, new homes going up, money flowing through the local economy. But oil economies are volatile by nature, and Alice has paid that price many times over. By 2026, drilling activity has migrated to more profitable basins, and Alice is left managing the aftermath. U.S. Census Bureau population data shows a slow but steady decline in residents over the past decade. Atom Data Solutions and RealtyTrack have both documented elevated foreclosure activity here, in some periods rivaling numbers seen in cities several times its size. The housing stock itself is a major part of the problem. Many homes in Alice were constructed rapidly during earlier oil surges, built fast to meet sudden demand rather than built well for long-term durability. Soil movement in South Texas is significant, and homes that weren't properly engineered for it are now showing severe foundation problems. Repairing that kind of structural damage can run $30,000 to $80,000, far beyond what most households here can absorb. Zillow data shows a large share of Alice's housing inventory priced below $100,000. While that sounds like an opportunity, the renovation math rarely works out in the buyer's favor. Once structural repairs, plumbing updates, and weatherproofing are factored in, the total investment can easily exceed the property's market ceiling. That's a trap, not a bargain, and experienced investors know it. Number 7. Marshall. Marshall, Texas carries the proud legacy of a 19th century regional powerhouse, a center of commerce, rail transport, and manufacturing that once drove the East Texas economy. Today, it feels like a living museum where the exhibits are quietly falling apart. Neighborhood Scout vacancy data places certain Marshall zip codes above 15%, nearly 1 in 6 homes sitting empty. That density of vacancy creates what urban planners call a blight effect. Abandoned properties begin to drag down the value and safety of surrounding homes, even those well maintained by homeowners doing everything right. Median household income here, according to U.S. Census Bureau figures, sits well below the national benchmark. Large-scale repairs are simply out of reach for many families. And with an aging population, some properties become entangled in complicated inheritance scenarios. Heirs who can't afford to repair the home, can't afford to sell it at a loss, and can't afford to demolish it. Those properties linger for years, sometimes decades. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has flagged minimal new construction activity in Marshall as a warning indicator. Developers follow demand. When they're not building, they're sending a clear market signal. This is not a place where investment confidence is high. Even within Marshall's historic district, which should be its architectural crown jewel, stretches of elegant old homes stand visibly neglected, their preservation an afterthought rather than a priority. Number 6. Kingsville. Kingsville benefits from 2 institutional anchors, Naval Air Station Kingsville and Texas A&M University Kingsville. But those anchors come with a significant catch. They generate population churn rather than population stability. Military personnel rotate out every few years. Students graduate and leave. The result is a rental-heavy housing market, where properties cycle through tenants rapidly and landlords are perpetually weighing the cost of upkeep against declining returns. Many eventually decide the math doesn't work, stop investing in maintenance, and let properties deteriorate until abandonment becomes inevitable. Census Bureau housing tenure data confirms that renters make up a disproportionately large share of Kingsville's population. Research consistently shows that high rental markets experience faster physical decline in housing stock. Occupants without ownership stakes have less incentive for long-term care. But the deeper issue is poverty. Census estimates have placed Kingsville's poverty rate near 30% at various points in recent years, an extraordinary figure. When roughly 1 in 3 residents is economically vulnerable, the idea of routine home maintenance becomes almost theoretical. Foreclosure analytics firms have documented a significant presence of zombie foreclosure properties here. Combined with rising insurance premiums driven by South Texas storm exposure, the path toward housing stability is narrow and getting narrower. Number 5, Harlingen. Harlingen is at the heart of the Rio Grande Valley, a region celebrated for its citrus, its winter tourism, and its tight-knit communities. But by 2026, it's also a region grappling with one of the most significant affordable housing crises in the state. FEMA flood mapping places substantial portions of Harlingen within high-risk flood zones. That matters for real estate in a very specific and punishing way. Flood insurance is increasingly expensive, often running thousands of dollars per year. For homeowners already operating with limited financial margin, that cost becomes untenable. Without flood coverage, mortgage lenders won't approve buyers. Without buyers, properties sit. And while they sit, they deteriorate. Census Bureau income data consistently places Harlingen and the broader Valley region among the lowest median household income areas in the country. When average earnings are this constrained, a roof replacement isn't a home improvement decision. It's a financial crisis. Necessary repairs get deferred until deferral becomes abandonment. The Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs has raised repeated concerns about the volume of substandard housing in this region. These are not simply vacant homes. They are structurally compromised properties riddled with mold, water infiltration, and foundation failure, presenting genuine public health and safety risks. There's also a demographic component specific to this area, aging seasonal properties. For decades, retirees from colder northern states purchased modest winter homes here. As that generation has aged and passed on, heirs who live hundreds of miles away often don't know what to do with these properties. Many simply sit unclaimed, deteriorating season after season. Number 4, Brownsville. Brownsville sits at the very southern tip of Texas, bordered by the Rio Grande and Mexico. It's a city of genuine contrasts. SpaceX's Starbase launch facility operates nearby, sending rockets into orbit. While just a few miles away, entire neighborhoods consist of homes that haven't seen maintenance investment in a generation. Bureau of Economic Analysis figures consistently rank Brownsville among the lowest per capita income cities in the United States. Under that level of economic pressure, abandonment isn't a choice born of indifference. It's often a practical survival decision. Families double up, consolidate households, and leave behind properties they simply cannot afford to repair or sell. One of Brownsville's most troubling real estate dynamics involves contract for deed arrangements. Texas legal aid organizations have documented predatory land contract practices in parts of the state, including this region. Under these agreements, buyers make monthly payments for years without receiving a deed or building legal equity. Miss a single payment after a decade of faithful payments, and the seller can legally reclaim the property. Many of those repossessed homes are never reinvested in. They're simply added to the inventory of decay. RealtyTrack data shows distressed properties in Brownsville spending extended periods on the market. Title complications from these contract arrangements, combined with the high cost of rehabilitation, deter investors. The result? A growing backlog of properties that nobody can easily sell, buy, or legally transfer. Number 3, Big Spring. Big Spring is West Texas in concentrated form. Oil rigs on the horizon, flat red earth stretching in every direction, and a housing market that rises and falls almost in direct correlation with crude oil prices. When energy markets turn, workers move fast. Leases get broken overnight. Mortgages get abandoned. The houses that get left behind aren't distressed in the traditional sense. They're simply orphaned, left mid-occupancy while their former residents chased the next boom somewhere else. Texas A&M Real Estate Center reports document an oversupply of aging, lower-quality housing in Big Spring. Many of these homes were constructed quickly during 20th century oil surges, fast builds designed for temporary demand, not enduring value. Today, they suffer from deteriorating insulation, compromised plumbing, and structural wear that makes renovation costs prohibitive relative to market value. FBI crime data analyzed by platforms like Neighborhood Scout shows elevated violent crime rates in Big Spring compared to similarly sized Texas cities. That matters for real estate because it suppresses both buyer interest and long-term investor confidence. The cycle compounds. Residents leave, vacancies rise, crime increases, more residents leave. Zillow market estimates show distressed Big Spring properties priced at levels that seem like bargains until you run renovation numbers. At that point, many investors walk away, and the houses stay empty, weathering under the West Texas sun until they become unsalvageable. Number 2, Beaumont. Beaumont has earned its place near the top of this list through a combination of forces that would challenge any housing market. Repeated hurricane damage, industrial economic dependence, and a population that has been steadily relocating westward toward Houston for decades. Census Bureau data shows a consistent pattern of outmigration from Beaumont. Residents who can afford to move are moving, drawn toward the economic diversity and job density that a major metropolitan area provides. What remains is a higher concentration of lower-income households, an aging housing stock, and a growing inventory of properties that have been structurally compromised by repeated flooding. State insurance data shows that windstorm and flood premiums in coastal Texas have increased sharply in recent years. For households already operating at the financial edge, these premium increases can be the final disruption that tips a homeowner into foreclosure. And once those properties enter bank ownership, financial institutions rarely invest meaningfully in upkeep. They wait. The properties deteriorate. Neighboring values fall. RealtyTrack foreclosure tracking shows regular bank repossessions occurring throughout Beaumont's residential corridors. FBI crime data has placed Beaumont among higher crime Texas cities in multiple reporting cycles, which further suppresses the buyer interest needed to absorb that inventory. Drive through certain neighborhoods today, and the evidence is unavoidable. Every third house dark, lawns overtaken, porches buckled. These are streets that used to be alive with activity, and the shift happened gradually, quietly, and without much national notice. Number 1, Port Arthur. Port Arthur is the most unambiguous example of large-scale housing abandonment in the state of Texas. It earns that designation not through a single dramatic event, but through the accumulated weight of decades of compounding hardship. The city is surrounded by one of the densest concentrations of petroleum refining infrastructure in the United States. You cannot visit without understanding that industry. The smell, the sound, the industrial architecture is the foundation on which Port Arthur was built. Yet the population that once supported that industrial economy has been leaving for generations. U.S. Census Bureau records show population figures that have dropped dramatically from the city's mid-century peak. The consequences of that population loss ripple through every part of the local real estate market. Infrastructure, roads, utilities, public facilities, was designed to serve far more residents than currently live here. That creates a fiscal pressure on city services that is difficult to escape. When a city can't adequately fund basic services, property values decline, which reduces tax revenue further, which weakens services more. It's a spiral that Port Arthur has been navigating for decades. EPA documentation has identified environmental contamination concerns in and around the Port Arthur area. Industrial proximity and pollution history suppress property values in ways that no amount of renovation can fully overcome. When air quality alerts are a regular feature of daily life, marketing a home to outside buyers becomes genuinely difficult. Poverty rates here consistently rank among the highest in Texas. The houses that remain standing bear visible evidence of multiple flood events. Water stains etched into walls like geological records of storms past. Median home values sit at levels that would seem extraordinary in virtually any other Texas market. Yet, even at those prices, properties can remain unsold for years. What makes Port Arthur the most sobering entry on this list isn't just the volume of vacant homes, it's the breadth of abandonment. Businesses have closed. Schools have consolidated or shut entirely. Public services have been reduced. The housing crisis isn't a standalone problem here. It's the visible expression of a community that has experienced loss across nearly every dimension simultaneously. Those are the 10 Texas cities where houses sit empty and nobody is buying in 2026. And if there's one takeaway worth sitting with, it's this. Abandoned properties are never just a real estate story. They're a human story. Every boarded window represents a decision someone made, not out of carelessness, but out of necessity. A family that couldn't keep up with repairs after a job disappeared. A retiree whose estate couldn't be sorted by distant heirs. A homeowner who walked away from a flood-damaged house because the math of rebuilding simply didn't work. Texas will continue to grow. The cranes in Austin and Dallas aren't going anywhere. But growth rarely distributes itself evenly. And these 10 cities remind us what happens in the places that get left behind. If you found this breakdown useful, share it with someone making real estate decisions in Texas. And if you want to go deeper on any of these markets, whether you're a buyer, investor, or just someone trying to understand where the cracks in the boom economy actually are, that's exactly what we cover here.